You're listening to Intimacy Made Simple, the podcast where we have real chats about sex. It's time to tackle the taboo and bust the myths so you can have true intimacy and make your marriage strong. I'm Mary Whitman Ortiz, your host, and today we're joined by my co-host, Rachel Landin. Rachel, I'm so glad you're here.
I am so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I have been so busy lately. God has just been blessing me, but I wanted to be here just so that I could talk about this subject because I believe it's important for the church.
And I say right off the bat, you have a lot of courage to step forward and to have these talks.
Because I prayed a whole lot.
You need to. And every time I bring it up to someone, they're like, oh, I'm so glad you're doing it. And usually that means they're glad I'm doing it and that they don't have to do it. But, we are just trusting God for getting this word out to be an encouragement to people.
Yes, I'm excited for that.
Awesome.
So,
do you have a question for us that you think our listeners want to hear about?
So I've thought about this, and I think one of the questions that people want to know or understand more is, why do you think it's taboo for us to talk about sex in church or at church or in that setting?
In any kind of church circle, church culture, that's what you're going for?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many hours do you have for this answer? But
not many.
But I'll give you a few thoughts on that. When I explain it, I think about the leadership in church. Mm-hmm. And we respect them, we honor them, we treasure them, we acknowledge God's gift on their life, but they're humans. Mm-hmm. They're people first before they're servants and leaders in the church, and they have their own filter, their own background, their own culture, their own every nuance that has ever come across their life in regards to sex. Mm-hmm. And if they haven't addressed any of those things for themselves, then how are they going to be able to address it with or for someone else? And add to that in a place of leadership where their perspective has a lot more weight on it.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And I was thinking, it's growing up, you think that, or the way my parents perceived it is that sex is a private, personal,
right.
Even though my parents kissed and hugged and they did, they had PDA, but it still wasn't something you just talk about it, out loud.
Sure,
it's definitely a very private matter. So I think that would be my answer. The reason I thought that we don't talk about it in church.
And I'm going to jump to another thought. Do you think we're long overdue with having these talks?
Yes, absolutely. I think that people need help in their marriages, and that this is a huge topic, that there are no resources unless they go searching for them. It's not like it's not like it's being addressed.
Right.
And they almost may feel ashamed to take that step. So it's just something that's left untouched. And I just think it's very important.
And if there aren't those resources in the church circles or that the church leadership is sharing, then it's kind of scary to go out there and look for something.
Absolutely.
If you Google on your laptop, your PC, then you could leave yourself open and exposed to something. And it is kind of scary. I think it's a God-given desire. I believe intimacy in marriage is God's gift to marriage. But trying to learn about it is not easy, and it takes great intention. With anything that you're trying to grow and improve in your life, it takes a lot of intention to make that happen.
I agree with that.
Well, I hope that this is something that you're interested in, and we have just begun to whet your appetite, and we are going to be having more of these real chats about sex. So please Stay tuned, watch for these new videos. And I have to tell you, the Intimacy Made Simple podcast launches on February 15th. Write it on your calendar and you will be ready to catch us all. And just a thought for you to keep in your heart. We have these real chats so that you can know true intimacy and make your marriage strong.